listening to Millcaster Tales, brought to you by knowhownonprofit.org.
Skate Hop at the Mill Pot, Part 1. Oh, for heaven's sake, they're back, Minnie, all-round helper at the Mill Pot Café, mutters anxiously. That's the third time this week those hooligans have been larking about up front. Greg, owner of the cafe, is also worried about this group of noisy skateboarders, but tries not to show it in front of Minnie. I'll clear the tables outside, Min. You go home. It's almost 6. Relieved, Minnie grabs her coat and scuttles out of the cafe to the usual wolf whistles from the group. She screams as one of the boys skateboards through a puddle, splashing her. Furious, Greg marches out, but hesitates at the last minute. Feeling cowardly, he puts his head down and starts wiping the tables. Was hoping to keep the cafe open longer now the evenings are lighter, Greg thinks ruefully, remembering his vision of an outside space, candles on the tables, jazz playing gently in the background. No chance of attracting new customers now. He ducks as an empty plastic bottle is hurled towards him. Yo, Grandpa, you missed the spot, the tallest one yells. Cut it out, that's enough, Greg cries. But the group breaks into laughter as the same boy shouts back. Going inside to get your Zimmer frame, Gramps? Greg ignores the insult and continues clearing up. But turning round, he's startled to see a woman carrying a large briefcase standing in front of him. We're just closing, love. Sorry about that. The woman doesn't move. Instead, she takes out an ID card and waves it in front of his face. Mrs. Stern, Environmental Health Department, Millcaster Council. Unannounced inspection under the Health and Safety Act 1974, she barks, starting to list the areas she intends to inspect. What? Greg says, not listening, panicking about the mess inside, and worse, the whereabouts, or existence, of the document she's expecting to look at. Sorry, Mrs. Could you repeat that? Stern, Mrs. Stern. I need to see your accident book, latest risk assessments, equipment inspection certificates, and the list goes on. Your turn to wash up, Ellie, Greg says sharply. His daughter gives him the "OK, mate, don't lose the plot" look that she uses so much lately. Sorry, love. It's been a tad stressful at the cafe. There's a group of... He wants to say yobs or ruffians, but knows she'll just roll her eyes. Troublemakers who keep arriving round closing time, playing loud music, jumping about on skateboards, littering the place and terrifying Minnie. Greg's voice sounds tense. And to cap it all, just as I was closing tonight... He stops, thinking health and safety is unlikely to interest his 15-year-old daughter. Maybe I'll come in tomorrow and help a bit. Sounds like it's a lot more lively there than it was. Better than hanging round here. So what else happened? Ellie asks, passing him a plate to dry. Oh, you couldn't make it up. A health and safety inspector arrived just as I was closing, a Mrs. Stern, and boy did she live up to her name. Ellie actually laughs at this, which briefly cheers Greg. God knows what her report's going to say. She was picking fault with just about everything. The crockery, the equipment, and I'm sure she found some droppings behind the fridge. Ugh, gross. The phone rings. Fancy a pint? Asks Jim, Director of Voluntary Action Millcaster. Yeah, says Greg, his face lighting up. Jim listens patiently as Greg pours out his worries. How's this group of lads going to affect his business? Will the situation escalate like Minnie fears, and the skateboarding group get even more intimidating? What's it going to cost to put right any health and safety contraventions? And the rent's due to rise next year? And how's he going to meet the extra cost of the VAT increase? And... Finally, Jim feels he's had enough. Hang on, Greg. I think we need something stronger. He gets up and goes to the bar, returning with a couple of whiskies. Greg, been thinking. Seeing as it looks like you're going to have to make major changes, you ought to consider registering the cafe as a charity. Maybe a social enterprise. It's what you do anyway, plough the profits back into the business, but you get tax breaks. I'll fish out some stuff and send it over. Greg hardly listens. He's so preoccupied. Anyway, it just sounds like more form-filling. That's great, Jim, he says, without conviction. You're a good mate. They walk home in silence. Greg's exhausted. Jim's thinking more about the potential benefits and opportunities for the Mill Pot becoming a social enterprise, maybe even seeing the skateboarders as an asset rather than a problem. But he can see that Greg's in no mood to take in anything at the moment. That night, Greg sleeps fitfully. Towards dawn, he wakes in a cold sweat from a bad dream. The cafe's full of moaning customers looking green, some staggering around, clutching their stomachs. He opens the fridge and is hit by a wall of cockroaches, and then, from somewhere, Mrs. Stern suddenly appears, and on a skateboard, hurtling at speed towards him, holding aloft in one hand one of his precious vintage teacups.
You've been listening to Millcaster Tales. Keep up to date with the latest Millcaster events and discussions at knowhownonprofit.org.